Um, this is the second time now that a sequel to a beloved indie game has come out, blown their predecessor out of the water, and been a Game of the Year contender. First Silksong, now Hades 2.
2Ds.
That's that's what it's called. Two Hades, Two Furious.
That's the one. Tokyo Drift.
That's the one. Yeah. Unlike Silksong, Hades 2 has actually been in early access for quite a while, over a year, I think, actually. And the devs at Supergiant have said that they don't know how Silksong was able to be developed behind closed doors to that degree of quality without doing any wide user testing through early access, which is remarkable. But I guess because of like the roguelike nature of Hades, the sheer multitude of possibilities at play at any one time means that it's almost certainly humanly impossible to properly test the game, within just a small indie team. But I didn't play the game in early access because that's not my bag. It's not my bag, baby. I like to play a finished experience, and I also avoided, looking at coverage of the early access version of the game to avoid spoilers for when it was inevitably released in its final 1.0 version. And I'm so happy that it's been released properly now, and on Switch 2 as well, because this feels like the home for it. Shall I tell you about Hades 2?
2Ds, yeah. Tell me about 2Ds.
Yeah. 2Ds is a straight narrative sequel to the first game, 1Ds, where you play...
That's a better joke!
Very silly.
Carry on.
In Hades 1, you played as Zagreus, who's Hades' son, trying to escape the House of Hades to reach the surface to discover the truth about his life or something. In Hades 2, you take control of Hades' daughter, Melinoe, who is a witch, having been raised under the tutelage of Chief Witch Hecate, and you are tasked with descending through the underworld to reclaim the House of Hades from the Titan of Time, Kronos, and also with ascending to the peak of Mount Olympus to destroy the king of monsters, Typhon. Hades 1 just had the one path to explore, where you went through the different levels, which was Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium, and Styx. You did that on repeat. So it's really, really great to have two different pathways to explore in Hades 2. In the underworld, you get to go through Erebus, Oceanus, the Fields of Mourning, before then returning to Tartarus from the first game. And then the surface route sees you explore the city of Ephora, the Rift of Thessaly, Mount Olympus, and then the summit. And it really helps solve the biggest problem with any roguelike game, which is getting bored with the variety and the locales getting stale. From a structural point of view, the game is pretty much exactly the same as Hades 1, whereby you have a range of different weapons to choose from. As you clear encounters with enemies, you get a boon from a god to power your weapon up, and you then construct your build, getting more powerful boons and other abilities as you go through your run to take on bosses of each of the biomes, and then a final boss of the run. In between all of that, you develop your relationships with the many, many, many characters in this world by giving them nectar or ambrosia when you encounter them. And then this allows you to engage. Yep. Yeah. The creamed rice. Very ahead of its time. And then developing your relationships with these characters allows you to engage in a baffling amount of voice-acted dialogue that deepens each of these relationships and broadens the scope of all the characters and the characterizations in the game. I don't know how many hours of voice work there is in this game, but it must be... I mean, if you said there was like thousands, I would believe you. It's just insane. Yeah. Like there's writing and dialogue written for every possible instance as well. So like when you encounter a boss, depending on the types of boons you've already gained or like in that run or the weapons you've chosen, or by where your relationship has got to with other characters, you'll have subtly different dialogue. It's just like there's no comparison to these two games in terms of like just an organically, unbelievably real feeling in a game. It's just it's ridiculous what they've done. You'll always have a goal or an aim to tick off in your runs, whether that's unlocking all of the boons of a certain god or winning runs with certain weapons or collecting all manner of different collectibles to craft different things and unlock more mechanics and other abilities and other relationships and all of that stuff. There's always something to have in your mind as your goal when you're going on a run. And I mean, it seems like there is always something to unlock after every run you do, no matter sort of how well or poorly you did. Like, there's always a reason to go on another run. And if you get a bit frustrated with trying to pursue one goal, you can shake it up and maybe, explore the surface for a few runs, or tackle one of the challenge runs that you get to do, or spend some currency sprucing up your base area, and or try and just try something different. It's insanely dense and well considered, and all of the characters in Hades 2 are just incredibly well written as well. Like, I know that certain people prefer the story and the writing and the characters in Hades 1. And, I had a lot of time to spend, obviously, with the characters in this game. And definitely, like, Melinoe is a much more nuanced character than Zagreus was in Hades 1. Because Zagreus was quite snarky, quite sarcastic. He sort of had this pre-built attitude that was quite charming. And Melinoe is immediately more earnest. She doesn't have as many obvious facets to her character until you start exploring her relationships with, various characters. You start to see more and more of who this character really is, which I found to be very, very rewarding, developing that over the course of many dozens of hours. And the brilliant thing about the other characters in this game, obviously it's all set within the world of Greek myths, and all of the gods and titans and other characters from myth and legend, like, they are fundamentally archetypes. Like, that's how they were created from the minds of humans, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Not hundreds of thousands, hundreds and thousands, the sprinkles.
It's a lot of pudding references today.
Mate, you've seen how much weight I've lost in the last month. I've basically got a pint of custard down here ready to go.
Delicious.
Yeah. So, like, you'll get someone like Moros, who is death incarnate. He's pretty gloomy, or Nemesis, who is the personification of retribution. She's got a few walls up,
Yeah.
And, like, the excellent thing in this game is that whilst most of these characters start off as seemingly one-dimensional stereotypes, which is what they are, that's where the stereotype has come from, they all have layers that you get to peel away the more you get to know them. It leads to some wonderful side stories too. And that there was, like, a more straightforward clarity to the story in Hades 1, which means that the story in Hades 2 doesn't quite have the same narrative punch, but the different aspects of the story that are at play in the story in Hades 2, for me, made it much more engaging, especially because you're engaging with Kronos, the Titan of Time. There's a lot of non-linear, timey, wiggly stuff, that just the scale is much larger, the scope is broader, and whilst that probably does mean you sacrifice a bit in terms of, like, efficiency of storytelling, I just embraced wallowing just in the epic vastness of it all. Something I was initially disappointed with in Hades 2 was the variety of gods that you receive boons from in the game was largely unchanged from Hades 1. So you're still getting your lightning boons from Zeus, water boons from Poseidon, boob boons from Aphrodite, but the way they work with the new range of weapons in this game means that ridiculously, I didn't even write that. It's just
off the cuff.
Likewise, because I'm dieting, I'm thinking of pudding. Saying the word boon that many times, I can't help but think of boobs.
Yeah.
The way these new boobs work with the range of weapons in this game means that everything feels totally different to play to the first game. And this is where Hades 2 takes a seismic leap forward from its predecessor. And it's safe to say that none of the weapons that Melinoe can choose from were instant hits for me in the way that some of the weapons were in Hades 1. Like, as soon as I got, I think it was like the fists in Hades 1, I was immediately sold on them and happily, like, ignored a few of the others. Whereas the balance and nuance of the combat in Hades 2 is so much more complex that each of the different weapons have very different mechanics, but start then at a much broader baseline to allow for then a much bigger scope in variety, in how they evolve as your build develops across your run. And it was mad to see the one particular weapon, the Argent Skull. As soon as I unlocked that, I thought, well, I am never going to use this again. This feels horrible to play with. By the end of my time with the game, it was my most used weapon.
Yeah.
And this complexity goes for all of the weapons and is helped by each weapon having 4 different varieties or aspects to choose from, which alters how they work in quite drastic ways too. It was the same in Hades 1, although I didn't actually spend anywhere near as much time sort of playing with them there. So you've got 6 core weapons in Hades 2 with 4 aspects for each one. So that basically feels like you've got 24 different weapons to choose from. And then obviously combined with the multitude of different boons you can combine over your run, it does mean that, every run, even if you're specifically aiming to get a certain build with a certain aspect of a certain weapon, can still end up feeling very, very different. And it says a lot that I didn't really bother actually that much with the post-game content in Hades 1. Like once I'd seen the ending, I didn't feel like I had a lot to play for by fulfilling all of the new and harder objectives I unlocked in the post game. But in Hades 2, I spent 115 hours in the game.
That's a lot of hours.
And most of that is post game content, and I would happily have had more. Like even going for like the hardest challenges in the game that I never would have tried in Hades 1. So even going for like the very, very hardest challenges in Hades 2, I never would have tried in Hades 1. Like but here I carefully and persistently worked my way towards overcoming them in Hades 2 because the sense of satisfaction that came with it was just obviously absolutely enormous. I actually did boot up Hades 1 for a few hours after I finished my time with Hades 2. And whilst it was fun, I couldn't believe how many little things had been added and improved in Hades 2 that I just couldn't imagine I couldn't imagine going back now. Just like tiny quality of life things, new mechanics, improved navigation and readability, even the change in like the design of the stages and how they look. Like the game is presented in isometric view. And it's a bit difficult to describe, but like Hades 1 had like the near side wall quite visible, which obscured a lot of the action when you were close to it, like near the foreground. And that's much, much less in Hades 2. And like just a little decision like that goes a long way to making the game feel more fun. And having things like the visibility of traps that are around the arenas mean that it doesn't feel like the game's catching you out and being unfair. The fact that like Malinois can dash and stay sprinting, just little things like that. Like to the untrained eye, Hades 2 looks like more of the same thing. Could probably be dismissed as just DLC, but I really mean this when I say it, that like the size of the step up between these two games is so much that it makes me want a remake of Hades 1 using the new Hades 2 setup. It's that different, like roguelikes and roguelites, obviously they're a bit of an acquired taste. I can totally understand why some people don't gel with them or find them boring. And there are many roguelikes that I feel are boring and don't have the nuances of the genre to make them properly addictive or enjoyable or, to keep playing them. If you didn't like Hades 1, even though Hades 2 is mechanically a huge step up from that game, if you didn't like Hades 1, you probably won't get on with Hades 2. But like, if you loved Hades 1, then my goodness, have you got a treat in store, for this game? And it's something that's difficult with direct sequels for games, certainly for fans of the original, is that you will need to push through a few early bits of narrative establishment and exposition. The characters won't be as nuanced as you left them in the first game because they need room to grow again. And like I said, the combat and variety in the weapons here does mean that you might not so quickly click with the game. I was still finding it incredibly fun from minute one, but then the payoff when everything starts to click meant that I had 100 hours of amazing gaming then to enjoy. Any other year, it's a game of the year contender. It could be a contender this year. I mean, comparing it to my other roguelike game of the year, contender, Night Rain, it's something I would love to see if/when we get Hades 3 would be co-op.
Yeah.
It's something that, I didn't know I was going to love it anywhere near as much as I did in Night Rain. I'd love to see a Hades 3 that saw you be able to play as Zagreus or Malenoe, but then allows you to do 2-player co-op with the two of those fighting together. I get shivers of excitement just thinking about the potential for that.
It's very stirring.
In the words of Nora, when she saw a big puddle the other day, "Oh, yes, please."
It's very pure.